Hello everyone. In this video, I have explained question number 1 of lab 8. Now, if you'll see the lab that is posted here, herein with the lab document, I have also posted 3 HTML file. So if you look at the question says download the first file, that is lab 8 question number 1 dot html. Okay, download it, copy it into your working directory. What that mean is, so what I'll do it over here is I'll click on this, I'll download this. Okay, and then it will download it in the download folder. Okay, so I'll go to the download folder, show in folder here, and see here it is downloaded. So what I would do is I'll copy it. So I'll say copy, and I would go to my working directory. So my working directory is JavaScript. So should be somewhere here. Okay, and I'll paste it over here. Now I have already pasted it over here. If you'll see, um, it is there, I know. Okay, so what I would do is I'll go to my VS Code here. Okay, in my VS Code, what I would do is go to File, go to Folder, open your working directory. So my working directory is JavaScript. So I'll go to that working directory JavaScript here, and I will open that. Okay, so if I'll open that, I'll see these files that I have downloaded being copied and pasted it over here. Okay, so herein if you can see lab8.html is there. Okay, now if I'll click on that one, I'll see this is the code that is being provided to you. Okay, now in this code, what you're supposed to do is first run this file. Okay, so if you'll run this, herein you'll get a page like this. Okay, right now it does not do anything. Okay, so if I'll click on the start button, what should happen is whatever the user has typed in over here. Okay, so for example, I'll type it 4. It should, when after typing it, when I click on the start button, it should start that timer. Okay, what that means is it should be printing as 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, stop. Okay, so after I click on start, the start button should be disabled. Okay, and stop button should be enabled. Now see, I'll refresh this page. So for now the start button is enabled and the stop button is disabled. After I click start, the timer starts. That is, this countdown from 5 will start, and stop will be enabled. So if I'll click on stop, the timer would stop. Okay, and if I again click on start, it will start from uh, the value wherein it was stopped. Okay, that is what you have to program. Now this basic program is being provided to you. You just have to add 3 lines. 1 to start the timer, to stop the timer. Okay, so if you'll see here in the code, excuse me, in this code, herein is where you have to stop the timer, start countdown, stop countdown. Okay, so that is the thing that you have to do in this code. Okay, let's see it from beginning. How can we do that? Okay, so okay. Let's see. So herein I'll just use a new file just to give you the demo from the beginning. Okay, so let's say lab 8 p1 solution.html. Okay, now before you do this program, you have to understand one thing, that is how to use set timeout and set interval and clear interval. Okay, so basically set interval and clear interval and set timeout. Okay, and I have explained these things in the videos. Okay, so you can watch those videos. Basic difference between set timeout and set interval is set timeout will call a function only once after a particular time instant. Okay, so it will call this function, whatever you provide it over here, after this many millisecond. Okay, what set interval do is it calls the function repeatedly after these many milliseconds. Okay, and clear interval, it clear this time interval. Okay, clear this function set interval. So these three functions should be known to you to solve this lab. An explanation of these three functions is provided in the previous videos that is posted on the canvas. Okay, let's see this lab. How do we use this lab? Okay, so first, what I would do is I'll create an HTML. I'll create an HTML file. Okay. Now the way I have created button over there is I will first start with a I'll first start with the paragraph tag. Okay. And in the paragraph, I have written enter the countdown starting number. Then click the start button. Okay. And then we have a text field, we have a button, right? One text field and two buttons. So let's do that. So here I'm gonna create that text field. I'm gonna say input type equals 2. And the first one is the number. Okay. And I'm gonna provide some value to this number. Minimum number that it will hold is 0 and maximum whatever you give. Okay, and value is 5. So this value is 5 means it by default it will just display that value, display this value in the text field. Okay, the another one is button. Okay, and it has an ID, so I'll say ID equals to start button and has a value that is start. Okay, and similarly you will have a stop button, right? Button, and herein I'll name it as stop button, and the value that I will print over here is stop, right? Let's see if my HTML code is working fine or not. So I'm gonna run this code and it is working like this. So minimum number, if you'll see, will be 0, right? Maximum could be anything. Okay, and by default it is having a value as 5 in the text field. Okay, then I have a start button, I have a stop button, right? Now I have to disable, and to disable the button, right? To disable the button, you just write it as dot disable. To enable, you just write it as dot enable. Let's see how. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my code. This is my code here. Now I'll start writing the script. Okay, to program. So in the script, first, let's take the values by ID. Okay, so I'm just gonna first declare a countdown timer to no. Okay, then define a variable, let's say number, to to get the value or to retrieve the value that is being entered by the user inside this text field, right? So how do we do that? We say document dot get element by ID, and what is the ID? My ID is number, right? Similarly, excuse me, I'll create one variable to select the buttons by saying get element by ID again, and my button ID is start button. Okay, and same thing goes with stop button. Okay, so I've created 3 buttons. Don't worry, all this code is already being provided to you. Okay, I'm just writing it to explain it. Now I have to do some program to create a timer. Okay, so what that timer will do is it will take this value that the user has typed in the text field and will start decreasing it till it becomes 0. Right? That's what a timer do. So for that, I'll take, I'll write a function, let's say countdown. Okay. And what I would write in this function is, let's create a variable that to retrieve the value, to read the value that the user has typed in the text field, this value. So I'm going to say, let number equals to number dot value. Okay. Now, if I'll create this variable, what will it do? It will take whatever the user has printed over here. Okay. We have to convert it into an integer value. So to convert it into an integer, I just wrote parse integer, this value, right? -1. Why -1? Because we are going to decrease it. Okay, we're gonna decrease it by 1 to implement the countdown timer. Now, till what time we should decrease it? Till the number is 0, right? So for example, the user has typed in 5. So then it should be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then at 0, it should stop, right? So what I would do is I'll say if number is less than equals to 0, I'll reset it to 0. And what would I do? I will disable the start button. So how to disable it? You see this variable start button wherein you are referencing to the button that you have created, dot disabled. Okay, so start button dot disabled. Okay, so when the timer becomes 0, your start button should pop up, right? So this, and then disabled. Okay. Okay. So I have written a function for countdown, okay, for decreasing the timer. Okay. Now, similarly, you have to write functions for what happens when you click on the start button and what happens when you click on the stop button, right? So I'll say start button dot add event listener. And what do? You first provide the event that you want to trigger and then provide the function, right? So this is what I am doing. Now, what do you want to do when you click on the start button? Okay, so when the start button is clicked, for example, what we saw there when I had, okay, let's see. Okay, so when you click on the start button should be disabled, right? And the stop button should be enabled. So that is what we have to write it over there. Okay, so when you click on the start button, your start button should be disabled. True. And stop button Excuse me, I just got a bad cough. So, okay, so stop button dot disabled equals to false. Okay, and then what would you do? You will call this countdown function, right? So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna create a variable which I have already created it over here. Okay, and I'll say setInterval. So you'll have to call that function repeatedly, right? Which function? Countdown after 1 second. So this is what you were supposed to do in over here, okay? Now here I had provided the timer, start countdown using interval timer. So if you'll see here, on, you were provided with a pointer, right? Okay. Okay, so what we have done over here is when the user will click on the start button will be disabled, stop button will be enabled, and then you call this countdown function. Okay, after an interval of 1 second. Similarly, when the user click on the stop button, okay, so stop button dot add event listener, and again on click, I'm going to write a function. And what happens when you click on the stop button? Okay, your start button should be enabled, right? So disabled will be false, and stop button be right. And then you have to stop the timer, right? You have to stop countdown timer ID. This pointer is provided here in the lab. Stop countdown timer ID. Now, how do you stop? Okay, so to stop, what we do, we have to call a clear interval, right? So how do you do that? Herein, you're gonna write it as herein to stop it. I'm gonna write clear interval. So I'm gonna say clear interval. This timer ID, right? You provide the unique timer ID that is being returned by setInterval to clear the interval. So I'll provide the unique timer ID over here. Okay, and this should work. Okay, now there's one more thing that you have to enter, and let's see what. So here in the countdown, I have given this stop countdown. Count timer ID, start countdown using interval timer and store termed. Okay, so you're gonna stop countdown here. Okay, now again to stop countdown, what do? You use a clear interval and then provide that timer ID, which is this one. Okay, so we wrote a function for countdown, which is going to extract the value that the user has entered, and it is going to decrease it by 1. Okay, now when that value becomes 0, what will happen? Start button will be disabled, right? And similarly, the stop button will be disabled too. And after that, just clear the timer, clear the interval. Now, if the user click on start button, you have to call this function to start the timer. When the user click on stop button, you have to stop the function to stop the timer. The way you stop is clear interval. The way you call countdown is set interval after 1 second. And that's how you code this code. Okay, code this problem. Now, if I'll run this, let's see how does it work. So I have a 5 over here. I'll just say start. Okay, and it is and stop. Okay, so it is the timer has not started. Let's see why. Okay, and after this, let's see, is equals to no. Okay, so every time the start, or if the user pause in between, you have to set the value. Okay, let's see. You see this? Okay, after 0, this is stopped. Now, if I will, let's say I'll put some other value over here. Okay, let's say 10, and I'll say start. See, it has started, right? 7, 6, 5. If I'll say stop, so when I click on stop, the start button is enabled, the stop button is disabled. Okay, now again, the value is 4. If I'll again click on start, it will start from 4. So I'll just say start. And now start is disabled, stop is enabled, right? Okay, and when it is 0, both the buttons are enabled. Okay, and for this, when it becomes 0, both the buttons should be enabled. We have written the code as disabled is equals to false, right? So basically, in this question, you had to write a 3-line of code, this one, right? And this one. Okay, and I had provided the pointers as well for that. But what I want you to do is understand how the code is being written and executed. Okay, I hope you have understood the solution of this. Let me know if you have any question and feel free to email me. Thank you.